In the previous lesson, we talked not only about horizontal rhythm, but about vertical one as well. Today, in this lesson, I want to give you some more example of vertical rhythm. You already know what is that, right? But I want to give you a little more examples of that so you understand a little bit better, and you'll also understand how to use vertical rhythm in your design as well. Here you can see the Airbnb website, and we are talking now about vertical rhythm and where we can see the vertical rhythm here. Vertical rhythm is when we are jumping from line to line of information vertically, like from top to bottom. And here we can see this perfect vertical rhythm defined by these sections that we have, the section that describe this house. So here we know who is the host. Then we jump to the information why you will love it here. Good to know, all about Carrie. So we can jump through sections like this one, or we will go line by line and then we will jump to the next section. Line by line and jump to the next section. This is what vertical rhythm is, and we can find it right away from the very beginning, even from the top of the website. Our first line can be defined as a first line of text, actually. Like here we have Airbnb and all the information. We have this horizontal rhythm, and then we jump to the next one, heading, the main heading of that gives the name, that provides the name of this house. Then we have a little bit more information about this house, and then we can see photos. But if we are talking about typography specifically, it's better to look at this section here, because in this case we are not overwhelmed with images, we're not overwhelmed with some additional elements that are not related to typography. But here we see only typography, and we see this perfect visual hierarchy, so we know what this section is about. And then inside of the section we also have this visual hierarchy to define what is more important and what is less important, and where we have the name of the section and where we have the description of the section. Like here, this is the name of the entire section. Then we have the name of this particular section and then the description of it. And we are jumping line by line, line by line. And as you can see, the distance between, we remember from the previous lesson, right, that vertical rhythm and horizontal one is mostly defined by the spacing that you have in your design. And we see that the spacing between the heading and the first piece of information here is bigger than the spacing between this heading and this description. Why so? Again, the law of proximity. This is our one group of information, and then we have to have this separation to create this pause between why you will love it here. Because of great location, great check-in experience, Wi-Fi. We make these pauses, and the same reason why we have the spacings here. Why you love it here? Because of great location. 93% of recent guests gave the location a 5-star rating. Great check-in experience. 100% of recent guests gave the check-in process a 5-star rating. Wi-Fi. Guests often search for this popular amenity. You see, we combined everything that is related to one group and separated each group from each other. And this is how we define our vertical rhythm. We go line by line and then good to know. So we give bigger pause here and then provide more information. Bigger pause between sections and smaller pause inside of the sections. And then we go here, and the same applies to this particular section. Go next. The same. We have avatar, name, and date when it was posted, and then the pauses between two different reviews are bigger than the pause between review, the name of the person who made this review, and the text of review itself. And the same here. the main thing that you need to take a look when you're thinking about vertical rhythm is the spacing between elements, because sometimes we can forget about it, or developers can forget that it should be additional space between sections, and then everything looks too close to each other. For example, this is another website. This is the design system for one Russian company, Mail.ru, and here, if you don't understand it, that's totally fine, what's written here, but usually we can really clearly see on the websites like this one, vertical rhythm. Here we have this headline, then we have text, and the distance between headline and text is pretty big. We can define it as a pause here, but in my opinion it's too huge. But it's totally fine, it depends on the system that you're using. It's okay to have here. Mostly it's great that the spacing between this text and this heading, is bigger than here. It means that this is one group of information, and then we have another group of information. But here what's a little bit also broken, like we have this heading here, this spacing, text, and then we have the same spacing between the first heading and the second one, and the second one is smaller than the first one, which defines us that this is, in the visual hierarchy, this is the next section should be, which means that the spacing here should be bigger, but it's the same as here. And because of that, all the text, like everything, all the information is compressed, and it's a little bit harder for us to jump through text. We don't see this melody because everything becomes just one piece of information. We can still differentiate everything because of the headings. Everything is great here. Perfect example here. We have bigger space between the previous section, the heading, then we have description, then we have additional information like list of information, we have spacing between them, and then we have the image right under this section. Everything. This is a perfect example of a great vertical rhythm, and also great use of typography here. Then we go next, and here this is the problem that we can see also related to vertical rhythm and spacings. So basically when we are talking about vertical rhythm, it's about spacing and information. It's like full filled line and empty line, filled one and empty line, filled one and empty one. So this is vertical rhythm. And here, as you can see, this is the image, then the distance between the image and this heading is almost the same as between this heading and this paragraph. And because of that, we don't really know, is this image about this piece of information, or it's related to the previous one, and this image is about this section. When we go from the very top, of course, we will understand that this image is related to the text that is above. But if we'll just start scrolling, it's additional work for our brain to differentiate these things. And that's why we have to take these pauses. This is not about only typography anymore, but still I want you to understand this thing about vertical rhythm. Vertical rhythm gives you pauses between sections. And if we had a little bit bigger pause here, then we would understand this information easier. So that's why you need to understand how it works, how vertical rhythm works, and this will help you to set the right spacings between elements in your design, not only in typography elements, but in general in different elements. And the final example that I want to show you here about talking about vertical rhythm, usually we can see it, of course, on promotional websites, on landing pages, and not only landing pages, but as you can see, design systems as well. Everywhere we see vertical and horizontal rhythm absolutely everywhere. But if you want to train these pauses, go and find websites where you see something like tables. Like here. we have the table of information and then heading, information, heading, information. And in this case, you can clearly see that the distance between these sections, even if we have these dividers, even if we remove this divider here, we'll still clearly understand that we have the pause, bigger pause here, which means that the next section is separate from the previous one. And we see that the spacing between these lines is the same because they are related to one section. We just jump through them easily. And when we go through all of this, we see this consistency, and like all the spacings are perfectly defined, these pauses in the text. So that's why now when you know about horizontal and vertical rhythm, keep in mind that they define your pauses, and when there is no pause for a really long period of time, our brain gets bored, gets tired, and we want to skip this information. But we want people to read this information, right? So that's why here we have these 4 columns with a small piece of information. It's much easier to read rather than this text below. Go and analyze different websites and take a look at spacings and try to even read out loud the text so you will understand what spacing to set between different design elements. And I'll see you in the next lesson.